Welcome to the Growth Zone. I am Christian Bartsch and I have a really interesting session for you today. So today's episode is going to be about branding, using the branding of your country, of your nation, where your business is located, and seeing how you can utilize it to build and grow your own business while you are competing against others who are maybe cheaper or maybe have other kinds of advantages in their branding. Utilize your national branding to your great advantage. And there we'll be looking now at following three areas. What is the outside perception of Swiss brands? How can you align your business to benefit from larger brands? And thirdly, get your market entry by using these strategies based on a business case I'm going to discuss with you. We are going to take as an example Switzerland for today, but it could be as well Sweden. It could be the United Kingdom, Germany, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa. It doesn't matter. It can be any of these places. Of course, the key things of the perception for each country's brand are differently. There's some advantages and disadvantages, and that's always with everybody. There'll always be some pros and cons, but we have to address these cons in a way that's intelligent enough so that our target audience is willing to focus on the good sides of the reputation of each country and follow on that and decide to buy our products and services. So let's get into it now. So what is the outside perception of Swiss brands, especially when we're looking at Switzerland? When we think of Switzerland, what do we think of? What do you have in mind? Just close your eyes and think about it. What comes to your mind? Brands, country, countryside. When I think about Switzerland, I think of mountains, beautiful landscape, chaos, traditions, small cities, but with a very special and unique character. Or for instance, Swiss chalets. I even think of James Bond's. Yeah, remember the James Bond where that took place in Switzerland? Do you know the name of that James Bond episode, that James Bond movie? Please comment on below the podcast and post the name of that movie. At the moment it doesn't come to my mind, but nevertheless, hey, just think, what else? Brands, for instance, products. Toblerone. Yeah, Toblerone, Lindt, Swiss knives, for instance. There are many other kinds of brands that we have in mind, or even Swiss watches. Hublot, for instance. There's so much there. And Migros, the retailer, the big retailer where you can go and buy stuff. There's so many products out there. That's this great multinational corporations. Nestle. Yep. Nestle is a huge business. Originally started by a Mr. Nestle who wanted to have sort of, as I understand, a kind of milk powder to feed children and strengthen their vitality and their immune system and so on. I think he was even a pharmacist, I'm not quite sure. But nevertheless, the key thing is our perception. It's all these things like Heidi and these other stories, and even if you read Asterix and that stuff, you might have read Asterix in Switzerland, then even there you see the perception of how the Romans would go and do their games of having a fondue and all these other things. And many things, traditions are shown, the highly democratic way of having joint discussions and joint votes, are not just electing somebody and letting them figure it all out like we have in many other democracies, where then people are not happy because actually they only were able to vote somebody but not vote on a certain topic where they have a set opinion. Then that's something that's as well very unique about Switzerland. Switzerland has its own armed forces, highly great people. And when you think, even, for instance, the Vatican has its Swiss Guard. They haven't got their British Guard or German Guard or French Guard or Irish Guard. No, they haven't got the American Guard. They have the Swiss Guard. And that's something unique again about Switzerland. And and what do we think when we look into values? It's not only just tradition, it's about quality, precision, banking. The same thing. We think of banks, Swiss bank secrets and so on and all that, where you think, okay, I can have a Swiss bank account with a Swiss bank account number, where you don't have actually a name, but you have a bank number, account number, and that's secret and privacy and all these great values. But yeah, so if you are a business based in Switzerland and maybe you're just starting out or you've got something and you're thinking, well, I need to somehow use more branding. I haven't got that much branding. I've just started out, or I've been in business maybe for 5, 10, 15 years. And why are all the others really going well? Just look at Swatch. Yeah. Swatch was a clever brand in the way it was built. It was as well allowing cross-marketing and things. For instance, I think 20 years ago, there was the internet provider CompuServe. And CompuServe was giving out Swiss watches from Swatch with the branding inside the watch. So when you got one of these watches, it was quite a great thing, because you had reached a certain level of expertise and you'd been doing certain contributions as well to the community and so on. And yeah, you got one of these watches. I had as well a CompuServe Swatch watch, which was really cool in that time. But of course, nowadays, who talks about CompuServe? Nobody really. Only those who at that time, around 1992, 94, 95, 96, already were surfing the net, already were maybe designing websites and other kind of stuff. That's donkey years ago, definitely. But yeah, just look at it, at what you can do nowadays if you see and understand what the outside perception is. And that's definitely quality, precision, tradition, and highly all these important values, where you then think, okay, if I have a Swiss watch, it's a high quality watch, it's precision, it's dedication to doing something that is really, really unique. Which means Switzerland actually has a brand in a niche, because it is really very, very unique. Just compare it, for instance, with Luxembourg, which is a much, much smaller country, but they have then a totally different kind of brand perception outside of Luxembourg, which is then totally different to what Switzerland has or Liechtenstein has in that. So that's a totally different thing. And even if you would say, okay, I compare it with Andorra or compared with the Channel Islands, it's totally different. Yeah. And it's something definitely very unique. And yes, there are watches made in Germany, watches made in France, high quality watches made in Italy and so on. But they do not share the same unique brand that Switzerland as a country, as a nation, and as a producer of products and services has to offer. And that's the thing. I'm living and I'm now recording this from Germany, and I see all these different things. I've got several Swiss watches where I say, wow, their quality is great, reliability is great, and so on. But yeah, there are other brands as well that have this kind of quality outside of Switzerland. And that's the core thing. What differentiates them? So, what about your own business? If you are based in Switzerland and you want to really grow your business, and you, of course, having to think, okay, I have to do more marketing. But how do I design my marketing? Am I going to utilize the advantages that my own country's branding is offering me? Then you should certainly do that. And then, unless there's a really big reason why not to do, but well, come on. It's like, for instance, many years ago we had the Made in Germany, what meant all engineering and precision and quality and efficiency and like fuel efficiency and fast and powerful and high quality. And the same thing is with Switzerland. You have a totally different kind of brand with some commonalities with, for instance, Germany's brand, or for instance, Austria. Austria has its own special brand characteristics and what people perceive it to be. And yeah, just look at it. So how can you align your business to benefit from larger brands that already are doing that in your country? And as in this current episode, Switzerland is our main focus. Take big brands, Nespresso, for instance, Nestle. Nestle has its Nespresso, its Nescafe and all these things. And yeah, I've got 2 Nespresso machines. I bought one for my parents, got Nespresso coffee. I even have other kind of coffee that I can even make my espresso or cappuccino and so on that come from other Swiss brands. So even there you can even go piggyback on it. Yeah. And look at other kind of brands that are from Switzerland. Hublot, for instance. Hublot watches actually developed out of a necessity. And the necessity was the founder Hublot liked sailing. So water sports. And the thing is, of course, with water sports, you have humidity. Everything that's exposed to humidity will dampen, will eventually either rot, break, tear, or start to rust. And that's the key thing. Most of the watches at that time, 20 years ago or so, they were all either made out of leather bands or they had metal bands. And then on one side either it rusted or the other one started to tear and wear in the humidity when you're sailing, especially when you're sailing a lot or even going like a tour for several weeks and months and so on. And if you like every weekend or every 2-3 days you go sailing on a lake or even on the Mediterranean, Atlantic, Pacific, it doesn't matter. It starts wearing. Yeah, and I'm sailing as well, so I know how it is. And even if you do regattas and you get stuck with your boat somewhere in the sands or between stones, things can always happen. If you're in a hurry trying to get where you're figuring out that you must be in order to get the best wind, if you have to get off that boat in order to get it unstuck, what happens if you just slip? You get wet. And if it's even cold, and that's happened to me as well, even as a young boy, I was doing my first proper sailing courses. Yeah, we had to get out of our small boat and we slipped and we were both soaking wet in a very cold water, which was at that time, of course, not so nice. But yeah, if you have a watch on, if your watch isn't waterproof, you have an issue. And if your watch has leather or metal, you would have then a issue that eventually would start, and you can't do that. But what did Hublot founder do? He went and started making watches with rubber bands. And eventually had the perfect rubber band that was nice and comfortable to wear, reliable and safe. And then other big competitors decided to say, oh, that's maybe not such a stupid idea. Let's do it as well. And they started copying him. Yeah, they started doing the same thing and offering bands. That's why, for instance, I have a watch from Lacoste with a beautiful yellow band and a black time frame. And there you can actually see, hey, the rubber is the key thing for sailing. If you're doing water sports and that, and you have to have a watch because you have to know what the time, how long, how much time we've got until the start signal is, or by when we have to be at a certain checkpoint. And that's where you have to have a watch with you. And you can't say, well, I'll look at my phone. Your phone is more threatened by water than actually a watch. So even if you put a phone into these waterproof bags, it'll still have an issue or a risk. And it's not really convenient each time to get out this packet. That's rather inconvenient, especially when it's raining and that, and you have these proper Harley Hansen jackets on with the Velcro and so on, which is quite stubborn. Then that's not so perfect to have a phone as your watch. So you have your normal watch. And that's the thing. You have these brands that have gone out to invest their time, effort, and expertise to find a solution to a unique problem. Hublot didn't want to solve a problem that's common in a huge community, but actually focus on something that is important to one community, and that's those of sailors. The same, for instance, look at Rolex. Rolex had as well one thing that they did, and that's as well why they have a very special and unique position in their market with those people who like it. And the same as well with Breitling. So Rolex was supplying watches to pilots during World War II. And some of them lost their phones because when they were captured, the enemies then took their watches away from them because they liked them too. So eventually, after the war, Rolex went and gave watches to those pilots who had lost their watches and gave them new watches as a gratitude towards them risking their lives to protect the democracy, which as well brands like Rolex as well benefit from, because in peace you are able to make more sales as a normal brand than in wartime, or at least you can do it much more profitable with a cleaner conscience. But the key thing is when you think about that, okay, but I'm maybe a small or medium-sized company. Is my service or my product really in a niche? That's something that you have to really think about. Look at what you are doing. Are you just reselling something from somebody? Let's say you're reselling Lego toys, for instance. Lego is great. Lego Friends is a great thing. And it doesn't matter if you've got a son or a daughter. Lego is a fantastic product that really goes and gets people to be creative. And whether it's a child or an adult, you can be so creative with Lego products and the Lego brand itself. As a Danish product, it is so powerful that it follows us from childhood to adult, because once we have our own children, we know that Lego really motivates creativity. And that's so important, because if you're trying to solve a problem, you need a certain level of creativity. And that's where you then, thinking of as a small, medium-sized company, how can I utilize my country's brand, whether you are a company in Sweden, in France, in Austria, in Germany, in Ireland, in Texas, in New York, in Boston, in Toronto, in Ohio, San Antonio. It doesn't matter. Even if you are next door to MIT, hey, there are lots of opportunities to utilize branding by association in order to strengthen your own brand. And it doesn't mean that you're going to practically say, my product is blah, blah, blah by this other product. No, you're not associated with them directly, but you can say, well, we are even located, we have our facilities located next to MIT. And then you say, oh, really? And the outside perception then goes and says, well, MIT, their research, they have very innovative people, they have great scientists. Yeah, they're very, very ahead of time, very powerful in what they're achieving, research, best research scientists. They're very clever people. And that's something then that you can, of course, relate. But the same thing would be if you're saying, well, our factory, and when you come and visit us, you can even stay the weekend on the mountains with one of these beautiful Swiss chalets. And then you think, well, that's actually a nice idea. I can take my girlfriend, my fiancé, my wife, my family, and that's maybe something really, really interesting and very unique, romantic, or great fun. Yeah, for instance, kids, they love to see the cows and the dogs and the Bernardinas. Exactly. Boom, you have the next association in the minds of people outside of Switzerland, and they think, yeah, that's this and this. Or look at Scandinavia. What do we think when we're thinking of Scandinavia? Whether it's Norway, Finland, Sweden, we think of the Vikings. Ooh, and suddenly we have these images of these big, tough guys with their boats, big blonde women, tall, high, powerful. Yeah. Or look towards the United Kingdom. What do you think? You think, of course, of the Buckingham Palace. You think of Henry VIII, the Normans, all these historic things. The battles between England and Scotland, the Irish conflict, all these different things that you then have in mind. The same thing if you're saying Ireland. Hey, what do you think? I'm thinking of many brands come in my mind. Kerrygold, Greenfields, even drinks. Yeah, you have the pubs, Irish pubs, and all these things. You have the music and all these different things, Guinness and all these different kind of images that we have in our mind. And each country has its own unique brands as well. And we can use that and see what are they actually doing. How are they actually utilizing their own branding power and that of their country in order to position themselves in the market? Because just look, for instance, at Nestle. Nestle is a huge conglomerate of different brands that they own. And many brands that we are using in our daily life, whether you're having your breakfast with certain kind of cornflakes or eating chocolate or having your coffee, having your espresso and so on. There's so many brands that we maybe at first not necessarily aware that we're actually having a Nestle product in front of us. Because not everything that Nestle has is called Nestea, Nespresso, Nescafe. They don't have everywhere the name Nestle, Nespresso, and so on built in. So you can go and have a look. Take, for instance, a product from your country that's close to your own things that you're doing. And especially it is important nowadays to have your niche. You have to focus on what you are offering. And even if you are offering services, let's say you are offering IT services or something, focus on your niche. You have to be in that kind of zone. Because if you are just offering something that everybody else offers, there's no distinction. And, well, you can't really charge proper prices. You're just going to charge average prices because you have to compete with everybody else who's offering the same average kind of service or products. And as I said, that's the thing. If you are like a retailer and you're just selling the stuff everybody else is selling, you have to compete by price, maybe by speed, and maybe even by different range of products. The thing is, even if you have 5 different or 20 or 50 different kinds of products on stock, what if only 5 of those products are actually going to be selling very well, and the other stuff is just stuck in your warehouse and nobody is buying? But the thing is, if you have maybe 2 or 3 boxes of these things, okay, it might be acceptable and bearable. But if you have 50 units of each item and the stuff isn't going, that's a lot of money that you can't really mobilize again. And cash flow is king in today's time of uncertainty. And cash flow, whether it's in a digital form or actually in a physical, as in notes and coins and so on, but in the digital world, I mean, by being in your bank account, by being spread in different bank accounts, spread in your subsidiaries as well, so that you are not exposed to all the currency risks, currency valuations and ups and downs with all the things that are happening. So try to align the benefits that larger brands are already using. So what you can do is, for instance, you go and take a sheet of paper, put a line in between, and then write down all the typical characteristics that they're highlighting. And then go on the other side and write your characteristics. What is unique about your products, about your mindset, what you are, by which you are actually leading your business and the way you are producing your products or designing your products or services and so on. And then try to find, okay, how can we align that again with what the outside perception is of our nation? And that's not anything about nationalism, it's about branding. We're talking clearly about branding, and you want to really benefit that. And then go and start writing your copy. I mean, writing your marketing text, writing your website content, your landing page content, your social media stuff, whether you're posting on Twitter, on Facebook, creating your fan page, your Facebook groups as well, something that you'll have to be focusing much more, because Facebook, your personal timelines and your Facebook pages, they are massively losing. The reach now already has gone down. I've been looking at a few people who have really usually a massive reach. Their reach is about less than 5% that they had like last year in December. So as an example, let's say somebody had maybe 500 to 1,000 likes. Now it's just less than 10%. For instance, one person who I know who has usually, when they have like a live video on that, even in that, they usually have a minimum of, I would say, 480 likes. And that's just likes. I'm not talking about comments, just likes. And now if they are lucky, they have maybe 20, 23, 25 likes. They have a few comments, maybe 10, 15 comments. And before they had like one comment after another. They had hundreds of comments underneath, just beside even the likes. So people were highly engaged. Now, even though they're actually doing the same quality of material, they're doing the same live and so on, the reach even in that, and even if their accounts have like 1 million followers, 2 million, 5 million, 8 million real followers, and I'm not talking about fake followers or fake profiles, because that's as well possible that you can increase and buy your followers for your Facebook pages, but there's no value in that. Yes, certain features are supposed to be unlocked by Facebook, but that's not really going to help you if your account or your fan page is full of fake profiles who are anyway not going to interact and not going to buy from you. So, and if you have maybe just 10 or 20 real followers, that's not going to help you, because they're not going to see it. And because these fake accounts are not interactive with your with your fan page or business page on Facebook, Facebook's algorithm then, of course, will then even show to your real followers other people's stuff. Because obviously the percentage between followers and people who are actively engaging and active in Facebook, that's where you will be losing. So somebody has maybe 5 million followers, and in reality, maybe they have 2,000, 5,000 real followers who really exist and not fake accounts. Their reach will be massively down. So you have to think, okay, where can I really then promote my branded messages, promote my products and my services by providing value? And that's the thing that you have to really find out. Check where your audience is, because it might be that your audience isn't on Facebook, isn't on LinkedIn. And then you've got a problem because you say, wait a minute, those are the two big places where everybody's saying I can get free leads by using chatbots on LinkedIn and so on. I see that. I get at least 3 messages every day on my LinkedIn account trying to promote or sell me anything. And it's the same kind of messages in there. When you get that like 30, 40, 50 times a week, eventually you get the message that somebody's messaged you and wants to connect with you, and you see the message straight away. You just read the first part of the sentence, you know, okay, you decline, and that's it. That's the key thing, where then the value devalues. But you have to find out where your niche audience is, and then go massively into that area. So, yeah. The good thing about if you're a business in Switzerland, you have so many great values already in the minds of people. You don't have to try to reinvent. If you're maybe in other countries that are maybe less benefiting of a powerful branding perception in the outside world, then you have to invest more. But when you look at Western Europe, look at USA and Canada, and even the different countries in there. You've got so much branding in there. You just need to utilize the branding so that you can align what is beneficial for you to fit with what you are offering. It means as well at the same time you're not having to redesign your product so that it fits with your national branding. You just associate it and try to build the value and get people emotionally to reflect and recognize, hey, Swiss mountains, Swiss cheese, or a Swiss chocolate, the excitement of traveling, the typical things that the Swiss have, all these very special things that people have in the mind. And that actually what makes it. Because I know, for instance, I think in the 70s, it was a very fashionable thing with wealthy people to have a weekend in a Swiss chalet and in winter go skiing in Davos and so on, and all other places around Switzerland, which is still even to today a powerful thing. But what if you are not based in Bern or in Zurich or in Geneva? Okay, then you're not benefiting from that, but you still got places wherever you are where you can go and focus on the key strengths of your nation. And if you're in France, use what people have in France. What do you perceive of France? If you're looking at from an outside perception, for instance, take France. I think of croissants. I think of this relaxed lifestyle of being positive, loving other people, being caring, and being very creative. Art, musicality, but especially art and these very traditional things. And of course, as well, the unrest that you have in different activities and actions. And plenty of great brands as well in France. Like, take, for instance, Air France. I like flying with Air France, which is a beautiful airline. And if you have, for instance, flying, from Europe towards South Africa, I've done that. And it's awesome. The service is great. Fly business from Paris, Charles de Gaulle, fly down to Johannesburg. It's an awesome trip with Air France. Service is great. The stewards are great. The food is great. The seats, everything, the design. It is a very unique experience. You cannot compare it with British Airways or United Airlines. That is a totally different brand, total different design. That's somebody else. If you like flying from France to there, then that's great. I fly as well a lot with Lufthansa and that. Lufthansa is totally different. The seats are different. Their values are different. Their focus on certain key areas are different. You can't even compare actively and say, well, British Airways and Virgin Atlantic, the same? No, they're not the same. They have their own values. A first-class lounge from British Airways is different to a lounge from Virgin Atlantic, totally different. You can't put it all in one basket. The same thing if, for instance, you're flying with different airlines in the Star Alliance. Hey, flying with United Airways, it's fun. Why? Because the stewards and stewardesses, they are all in such a positive, fun atmosphere, and they are so relaxed is maybe the wrong word, but they're highly positive. And it's fun. It is really fun with them. And you don't really notice the time passing. And suddenly say, wow, okay. But the same thing can be so different in different areas. If it's the plane is packed full and everything is stressful and bad weather and issues here and there, then the stewards and stewardesses as well stressed. They're just humans. And we have to see the same thing. How can we then look at our own nation? As I said, take a piece of paper, put a line in between, write your characteristics, write that of other competitors in your country, not in other countries, in your country. And a third column, you write the characteristics that people are seeing or the values that see in relation to your country, where you are based. And that's what then you can use. Same thing, for instance, with Australia. Australia has certain kind of brand image outside, and that's then what people see. Kangaroos and so on and so on. Use that. But, okay, how can I use that then? Let's say I have a small and medium-sized business and I decide, okay, I've found all these very good things I can use to promote inside my own country and promote as well in neighboring countries. What about you saying, well, but I want to go and bring my Swiss product to Australia or to Malaysia, Singapore, or to Russia? Yeah, what do you do? So I'll take an example. It doesn't relate to Switzerland, but it's a really good example. Many years ago, I had to write a marketing strategy document for Australian wine. So when you go here into a supermarket and you're looking for Australian wine, years ago you couldn't see really much of it. You might have been lucky and found in a very special wine shop, you found a bottle of wine from Australia. Very seldom. And if they weren't really very nice, they weren't really very posh or unique, they didn't use that. And today, when you go out there, you will find some bottles who really show the Australian landscape. They show kangaroos or all different other things that you can have, like boomerangs and all these things. And that's the core thing. You have to find, on the one thing, how can I enter into that market I want to go? So the paper was about how to get Australian wine into the Russian market. Okay. At that time, I hadn't been in Russia. I only knew Russia from reading books and other things and research and so on. So I had to try to do that. I had to see how could we have a strategy that we bring the wine into the country, and then secondly, how to expand inside that country and eventually go and expand in the neighboring countries. So that's something really that's then eventually challenging. So the idea was, okay, how can we use the brand that Australia offers as a nation, and how can we actually then go and make people aware that our wine that we are offering is there. remind them of the characteristics. For instance, the plan was to have, for instance, some outdoor events in Moscow and other places, St. Petersburg and so on, that would then showcase the Australian image. People would say, oh, cool, what's that? Yeah, there's so many things that we think when we think of Australia. And it can be about food, it can be about animals, the nature, the country, the people. It is unique. And then you see, if you reflect that in your events, then people will say, wow, hey, wait a minute, cool, I must go and have a look at that. What's that? And then you say, hey, try Australian wine. Australian wine? What? I thought maybe there's only Australian beer. If you're lucky, you know Foster's, Castlemaine, and there are a few other brands as well, but that's it. So you can then actually use that. And from there, it was, of course, at the same time, the thinking, okay, market entry is not just about what do we do then in terms of marketing locally our products by using brand association in relationship to our nation's branding power. It is about as well, how do I get my product in the first place physically into the market? Which means, how do I get the bottle of wine from the Australian winery into the Russian store? Exactly. That thing has to be shipped. It has to be moved. How can I then handle the issues that I'll have? Because I maybe have damage. Maybe I have shipping costs. I have customs. I have time to delivery. I mean, maybe the ship is traveling for several weeks until it reaches from Australia, reaches Russia. Of course, you could go and say, well, we ship it from Australia, send the ship past Japan up to the north and reach a eastern port of Russia on the Pacific, and then deliver it and then have it shipped. But what if your wine products are not fit to be transported by train from one side to the other side of Russia? Russia is a huge, huge country. So you can't just do that necessarily. It might be not feasible. Maybe the costs are high, the risks are high for your products, because you actually want to sell the stuff in Moscow, not on the other side of Russia. So you have to get it there. So theoretically, you have to have a ship that goes, for instance, to Rotterdam, and then from Rotterdam to these other places, to the next ice-free harbor of Russia. Or you ship it through to Latvia and so on, and from there maybe by lorry in containers up there. But the thing is, that all costs. It has consumption, it has CO2 foods, that we'd say nowadays. We have a huge cost in shipping our wine from Australia to Russia, to Moscow. Yeah. So that's the thing. How can I reduce the cost? How can I reduce the weight? And then what did I do? I looked at other brands. For instance, Guinness or Coca-Cola, what they've been doing. And there's certain strategies that you can apply, how you can repackage your product, how you can treat your product so that it is less weight and as well as less threatened by the things that are outside of the shipping environment. Because maybe you're shipping it as a liquid, maybe you're shipping it as a powder or anything like that. And then the thing is, of course, what do I do then? Because let's say even if you ship it in crates and you say, okay, then I need a bottling station outside of Moscow. What do? Do I rent one? Do I have someone? Do I buy one? Do I build one? Just look at Tesla. Tesla is building a factory just outside of Berlin to manufacture its batteries. Okay. They could be doing that stuff in USA or in China and so on. All these big corporates, they're going to thinking they have to produce in China in order to be cheap and compete and survive in the market. But many brands have noticed if they have done that, they have actually damaged their value the brand value, and they've damaged as well the quality of the product, because people then see, well, it doesn't look like anymore like the traditional product, it doesn't taste like the product, doesn't feel like the product. I maybe don't trust it because I don't know what is inside it. Maybe there's stuff that is dangerous for my kids and so on, and I don't want to have that. So that's the key thing, where consumers and as well companies look and say, well, can I associate quality with certain countries? That might be an issue if you're based in certain countries that are known for low quality products. So you have to, in that situation, you'd have to try to attach your product to the positive sides of your nation and not with negative sides. So that's the core thing that you have to really go and look at. And back to the business case. So the idea was, okay, we know how to reduce the cost. We get the brand in. Then we have to see, okay, what about the neighboring countries? Because the neighboring countries are producing wine as well. Russians are producing wine. The Georgians are producing wine, and other countries around Russia are producing wine. And some of it is good, some of it is not so good. And the interesting thing is that Russian winemakers were sending on a regular basis their people to Australia because they have the same kind of trees or plants, I mean, say grapes and that stuff. So that's something where you even can connect. And then having this kind of idea that I don't have to enter a market like an enemy, like somebody who's going to start a fight and bully somebody or attack somebody and try to push somebody out of the market. No, you can even actually find your own niche, enter that niche, satisfy the niche, because there are plenty of people who will want to have this kind of niche product. Because it's the same thing. Let's say you bring Australian beer into the German market. We have so many big brands and people drink here a lot of beer and consumption is going down, but nevertheless, there'll be plenty of people who say they don't want to drink anything else than Bavarian beer or beer from Cologne or beer from Berlin and so on. They don't want to drink the other stuff. And then to tell them, hey, you have to go and drink Australian beer, and they think, no, they don't drink beer from another county. Why should they drink the other stuff? But maybe you've got people who like more international products from other places, and they'll be willing and say, okay, for that, I will drink beer because I like that. But otherwise, they don't drink beer. That's the key thing. The same thing is with watches. There are plenty of people who don't wear watches because they have certain kind of work environment or habits, but if they go and do certain sports where they need watches, they'll put on a watch. So you can't go and say every day is the same in our consumers or audiences' life. And that's the key thing. How can I expand? And that's the thing then, as a second part of that strategy paper that I was working on. And then funnily enough, actually even got a prize. I hadn't actually submitted it for any kind of competition, but yeah, eventually got one prize from the Monash University in Australia and from Exportise, that was the leading export consultancy in Australia. I got a prize, and yeah, I even got a nice little check, a beautiful plaque from the university and from the consultancy, which is cool, and I still have that, and it's a great thing. But even today, when I'm doing stuff for clients, I'm using the same basic ideas that I had, or the concept that I applied for those two papers, for market entry and market expansion. And it's great. And I often see here and there some Australian brands that obviously are using that concept. And it's nice. And you see, okay, it's working. It's working. And when we have clients who then really go and do that, I see that it's working for them too. And it doesn't mean that they have to be Australian beer or Australian wine. There can be other products, other brands in different countries. And as in my example for today, looking at Swiss products. Okay, how could you bring, let's say, Swiss products into Russia or into Germany or into the United Kingdom, Ireland, Sweden, and so on? Yeah, you have to focus and find out what's in that target audience, in that target country, what is the right perception, because certain qualities of your country might not be seen in that country. Either you have to make them aware of these unique characteristics of your country in that region, or you have to avoid that and find other things, because maybe certain things maybe happened in the past that are not so positive, so you have to find your way. But it doesn't mean you have to hide behind a stone and say, okay, my brand comes from this and this country or this and this country. Many countries around Europe as well, they have good images for certain things and bad images. And when you look at it and you take the map of Europe, you'll be able to put a black chip and a white chip on every country, because there'll be always something that's very good and something that was very bad. There's not black and white just for one country black and one country white. That's absolutely not. Every country has its unique, very powerful strengths and its unique bad sides. And that's where we have to see. We have to focus and emphasize the positive things. And if we are confronted with negative sides, we have to then deal with it and try to handle these objections, these complaints, or even these negative thoughts, to turn them into positive thoughts and see how we are dealing with these negative aspects. So that's what you can really do. And as I said, go and look at the characteristics of your brand, of your national brand, and as well of big brands in your country. And if you have the ability sometime in the future, when you are traveling on business trips or on holiday to other countries, go and look and ask people as well what they think of your country, of your national brands, when they think about them, and get them to say it in a spontaneous way and take notes, or later on or whatever. But that's the key thing. You can use that to find out what's actually the real perception. I hope this was really interesting for you. I have some other nice topics coming up in the next episodes, and I'll be focusing as well on a different country in one of the following shows. So the next episode will be on how to actually get paid from your business. And that'll be a conversation with Tracy Bissett. She is based in Toronto, Canada, and does different kinds of financial advice, consulting, as well as small, medium-sized companies, startups. And she is as well an educator at a business college. But more about that and about what she does, you will be finding out in our next episode. The 3 areas that we will be talking about have following questions in them, and that is, what are the most entrepreneurs doing right with the money, not realizing their true potential? Second, how can you effectively discover what lenders actually care about? Because if you want to have some funds and you need to take up a credit or whatever, you have to have the right stuff in the right place and having done your homework. So you have a good chance that they actually agree in providing you with the funds. And the third area is about how to actually get paid from your business while it is enjoying sustainable growth. Because that's then the moment when we really need to consider how much do we have to charge for our services or products so that we not only are profitable, but we as entrepreneurs, or business owners are able to pay ourselves too. Because that's something that many people forget. So we'll be talking about that, having a easy conversation about all these different areas and how you as a business owner, as a founder, as a startup or small, medium-sized companies, how you can take your business to the next level, improve it, or even get a good start into the business life without making some foolish mistakes that will cost you money and as well valuable opportunities. Well, that's all for today's episode of The Growth Zone. Thank you for listening. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or Spotify so you never miss an episode. Plus, if you haven't got your signed copy of the marketing book, stop by on our website at book.prmediareach.com and hurry, because the reserved batch of signed books are almost sold out. So the address is book.prmediareach.com. I'll repeat, book.prmediareach.com.